Welcome back to the Field of 68 mid-major show. Guys, it's like Christmas morning. It's our first episode where we have real games to talk about. Regular season college basketball tipped off last week. We opened it with the Field of 68 opening day marathon, and both of these guys were on top of it all weekend. Rocco Miller, Sean Paul alongside today. Guys, like I said, it's like Christmas morning. Rocco, you were in Rock Hill for the start of this college basketball season. Talk to me about the energy in that building.
Well, yeah, Vince. I actually, unfortunately, had to leave a little early. I missed the action, but I was there during the weekend. I felt some of the early energy around town, and from all accounts, obviously, our Jeff Goodman, of course, was part of the broadcast. Paul Fritchner and some other friends all made it possible. Really, really cool event. Very well received across college basketball, and I just think playing an 8 a.m. West Coast, 11 a.m. East Coast opening game is a amazing idea. The fact that Winthrop is basically right down the street and Queens is a very short, drive to from Charlotte. That was a genius idea to play them first because that building I think was the most full during the first game. And that, of course, built a ton of momentum into the next game, which was a really good battle between the St. Bonaventure Bonnies and the Bradley Braves, a high level game. And then after a little bit of a break, a little bit more of a local showcase with two high-powered programs. We'll focus on one of those today in High Point and Furman. So I think just the whole plan around it was brilliantly done. And I think by all accounts, everybody I've talked to so far that played in it really had a great experience.
Looked like the energy was high. It was nonstop action from literally 8 a.m. to when your head hit the pillow. Sean, let's go to you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this 8 a.m. game. First thing, right? Winthrop, Queens. This was one back and forth the entire game, but it was Dalen Berry from Winthrop that helped lead the team to an 81-74 win at that 8 a.m. hour. Talk to me about what Winthrop did to win this game.
Well, a couple things. For one, when we previewed this game, I talked about how good Winthrop's guards are on paper, and we saw it in live action. It's more than just on paper. Dalen Berry was fantastic, 23 points. He only had one assist, but that one assist came in a very clutch moment late in the game. He found one of their big men for a layup that was a pretty pivotal moment in the game. He was just such a good scorer in that game, 9 for 11 from the foul line. He made just a lot of big plays. But Kareem Rozier, he's going to be a problem in the Big South with his speed, with his ability to get into the lane and pass the basketball at a high level. He had 7 assists and no turnovers, 3 steals. He was a pest defensively. He was a great passer. He did everything to set up this Winthrop offense well, and he can be a better scorer than he was. He's only 2 for 12 from the field. He's a better scorer than that. He could be a really big piece for this Winthrop team moving forward. But I also thought that Winthrop did a really good job owning the paint. I felt like they had a big advantage there with Logan Duncombe and Tommy Camerad coming off the bench. Those two were both really good. Camerad had 10 points off the bench in just 10 minutes, and Logan Duncombe 12 points, 8 rebounds. He was just really tough on the glass, especially in that first half. They had no answers for him. Got a couple big offensive rebounds. That's the one part of this game I didn't really expect. I didn't think Winthrop would be that dominant on the interior, but they were, and it made them really dangerous in this game. But their guards are going to take them really far. They're a really deep team. They played 11 players, at least 8 minutes in this game. This Winthrop team could be really dangerous and could be someone who is in the top 3 of the Big South as we move forward.
Yeah, full breakdown from you there, Sean. You're on it, my man. Let's go. You're going to find out throughout this episode that this is the Rocco Miller episode, and we're going to start with the Miller here. Murray State, new head coach Ryan Miller, they get their first win with their new head coach over Omaha, 85-77. The Racers, the Miller fam in full attendance right here. Not actually, but the Miller last name. Rocco, what'd you see from Murray State that you like?
Well, like we talked about last week, Murray State owns probably the most dangerous roster in all of the one bid leagues that we cover on the Mid Major show. And I think that held true in the way that the second half unfolded. It was a highly competitive first half, and Murray State was able to stretch it out in kind of that third quarter, if you will, of the game to open the second half and built up an 18-point lead with 7 minutes to go. So you look at the final score, you see an 8-point game. It represents more of probably how the first half went, but a lot of that was Omaha rallying late just to make the score look prettier. Murray State's extremely dangerous. You look at the exclamation point dunk that Dylan Anderson had to put him up 18 at that 7-minute mark, and you kind of knew it was over. They were kind of on their way to a 25-point win more than an 8-point win. I think you look at guys like Roman Damone and Johnson, just creators. Johnson and Mason Miller, another Miller, obviously another Miller on the team. Of course, related to Ryan Miller, but they were really consistent from 3-point. Johnson got to the foul line with regularity. The big man, like I talked about, Dylan Anderson, he started his career as a big-time prospect at Arizona, sat out a year, played a little bit for Boise State last year. So a guy with that much potential and now, well into his 21, 22 age. That's a big-time weapon in the Missouri Valley Conference going forward. I thought on the Omaha side, there was still a lot of promise. They got gutted a little bit with their stars going up multiple levels. Of course, Markel Sutton to LSU being the headliner of that group. But they were able to put some resources together there off the great run they had in the trash can campaign. And they kept Lance Waddles, they kept Tony Osborne, and they kept Cameron Thomas. And that trio, really makes Omaha pretty sticky and really good glue there. I thought, they did take a flyer on 7'1" Christian Richardson. They tried him early to match up with Dylan Anderson. It really wasn't working. Richardson's a pretty raw transfer from Long Beach State. Didn't get a chance to win very many games down there. So we'll see if he can come along later, because I think after Richardson was clearly not going to cut it defensively for Omaha. They had to go much, much smaller. I think their tallest guy the rest of the game was 6'8". In a game like this, or when Omaha has to play up like this, it's going to be a big challenge. But I think when we get into Summit League play, there's not too much of that across their league, and they should be fine. And they have really good glue, like I said.
Yeah, Omaha up 7 at one point during this game, but the Racers able to fit. Let's take a look at our next one. Drake, they survived a big scare from Northern Arizona, 77-71. Sean, talk to me about how the Bulldogs managed to pull away late in this game and get the win against UNA.
It wasn't an easy game because they had a very difficult time stopping Zach Davidson, who had 29 points for Northern Arizona. But at the end of the day, there was one move that I felt like really made Drake dangerous in this game, and it was putting Wilkins Jr. exact at the 3. That made them a really big lineup because exact is 6'6", 230 pounds, 14 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. When they put him at the 3, the Oku Federico at the 4, and Isaiah Carr at the 5, it made them a huge lineup, and that was really difficult for Northern Arizona to deal with down the stretch. Jalen Quinn made a few big plays, but I love that big lineup for Drake. I think they need to stick with it as their primary lineup because I think it makes him really good defensively because Federico is long, he's athletic, he could play a nice role at the 4. Carr's a good rim protector, and Exact brings a lot of versatility. He could defend guards, he could defend bigs. I love that version of the Drake lineup, and they also had solid guard play too, like I said, with Quinn and Thomas, and when they eventually get their injured transfer back from South Dakota State, this is going to be a really good Drake team. They're not going to take much of a step back. Maybe they won't be an NCAA tournament team in the at-large capacity, but this is a team that can definitely make the NCAA tournament by winning the Missouri Valley Conference. This team is that good, and I think Eric Henderson proved that in his first game at the helm.
Bulldogs pull away late from the Lumberjacks and get a win. The next one, the Field of 68 delivered and given us games that were close from start to finish, back and forth. Another one in that 11 a.m. hour, Bradley, they go up against St. Bonaventure and they fall just short. And Rocco, in this one, it was Daryl Simmons II that had a day.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they were riding Simmons down the stretch, and credit to Randolph Childress, our very own Randolph Childress, throughout the broadcast. He was talking Simmons up from the opening tip all the way through the end, and of course his father took over the broadcast, biting his chain and firing everybody up, and you could hear him through the audio. So shout out to Papa Simmons, that was awesome. And Mama Simmons as well. She was there next to him. So that was really, really cool. And I told you guys last week, I covered Gardner Webb in person, Daryl Simmons in a game against UNC Asheville that they fell apart and unfortunately lost when he was at G-Web, was the best player on the floor. And really smart move by St. Bonaventure to bring him up. He clearly can play at the A10 level. He's got he's a 3-level scorer, and he's an excellent teammate, great attitude kid. But I think the guy, that really continues to impress me, and that was my first chance to get really eyes on him versus just reading about exhibition and random St. Bonaventure message boards. Highly recommend if you don't do that. Caden Charles, the transfer from North Georgia Division II, has really emerged as a really cornerstone piece of the Bonnies makeup this year. He did a little bit of everything, and quietly, because I think Randolph Childress was so busy talking about Simmons, he forgot to talk about Charles. He had 15 and 8 with 3 steals. He did a lot of glue plays with, picking up offensive rebounds, setting critical screens to free up Simmons and others. And he was just extremely efficient across the board. He also got he locked down his guy on defense. I was watching him closely. And I just was extremely impressed with Caden Charles. But I do know this is a one bid league show, so let's get back to the Braves. The Braves did rally back, and they had a commitment, as they always have, to the defensive end. I've seen so many Bradley games over the years, and Sean, I know you have too, to where they get down in a hole, but they're never out of it because they just lock in. They start stringing stops together, and next thing you know, you look up and it's a 2-point game, and that's exactly how this game went. We had a 62-62 tie with a minute 23 to go, and then Bradley proceeded to give up a made 3-pointer. They get fouled. They only make 1 of 2 free throws. Then they foul again, and suddenly they're down 4. A turnover, and the game's over. They lose by 6. But if you get Brian Wardle right here, they would love to have that minute 23 back because the game could have gone either way at that point. It was just an unfortunate final 3 possessions for the Braves.
Yeah, it was a coin toss at the end, but it fell in the way of St. Bonaventure. Sean, let's look at the next game. I mean, basically a home game, right, for South Dakota State just down the road. They played the late game in Sioux Falls. A lot of preparation goes in when you play this Merrimack team with the defense that they play. South Dakota State holds on to win. How'd they do it?
I mean, they really made some tough shots down the stretch. That Merrimack defense was coming up big in that second half. They made things really difficult, especially the first segment of that second half. Merrimack had a 5-point lead, but then a couple tough shots from Kalen Gary and Jaden Jackson, who had 23 points. But ultimately, I feel like once they started to establish Damon Wilkinson a little bit down low, that made a bit of a difference. They were able to get it inside, and then that opened up some more shots on the outside for the Jackrabbits. And they turned the ball over 14 times. But ultimately, Merrimack is a team that has to force a little bit more turnovers than that because that's their DNA. And the Jackrabbits did a pretty good job of not turning the ball over a ton. And ultimately, I think we saw some of the problems that Merrimack could have throughout the year is their size is even smaller than it is in most years. At the 5, they started Todd Brogna, who's 6'7". He's more of a 4, and he started at the 5 for him. They only have one player over 6'7" in the rotation, so it's a really small team, more smaller than it usually is for Merrimack, but they're going to be tough defensively all year. We'll have to see where the offense comes from. Kavar Kennedy was really impressive as a freshman guard. He had 10 points. He could be their next go-to guy with Bud Clark transferring to Seton Hall. Ultimately, though, South Dakota State's going to be right in the mix to win the Summit League once again. No Eric Henderson, but that program is in really good shape. Matthew Moores, Wilkinson, those two on the interior are strong, and their guard trio is awesome. So I expect them to be right in the mix with St. Thomas when it comes to winning the Summit League this season.
Stacking great games here. The last one of the night was one last week that I said was my favorite game, the most highly anticipated game for me heading into this Field of 68 opening day marathon. And that game was High Point versus Furman. Rocco, this one might have surprised some people based on the outcome. High Point blows Furman out of the water in Flynn Clayman's head coaching debut for High Point. How did this happen? And what did you see from a High Point that was so special in game one?
Well, yeah, I think it caught us all off guard. I mean, I think we had High Point in our top 10 and Furman in our top 20. Of course, Furman is a short drive from Rock Hill, as is High Point, but it's a little further north. So you figured maybe Furman would have a little bit of familiarity and comfort playing there. It went the opposite direction. And I think a lot of it just had to do with straight up High Point's personnel is better. I think one of the key acquisitions, I know we'll talk to Rob Martin today, but I think, outside of all the greatness he had, Owen Aquino was an unbelievable theft from Liberty. To get him, he really does kind of everything when you break down the film in terms of setting screens, getting loose balls, blocking shots, stealing, creating turnovers, etc. and he's freeing guys up like Scotty Washington, of course, like Rob Martin, allows the defense the guards to run free. And he's just a really good fundamental player that with good positional size at the 4, can also play a little bit of the 3. So Aquino's a guy I've always loved. Sean probably remembers me talking about him multiple years ago on this same show. And, so that really stood out to me. I also just thought, Furman, I got to see them practice the same week as SoCon Media Day. I was there with Jeff Goodman from our network. And, Furman was dealing with 3 or 4 injuries during camp. I think they just recently got healthy, and you can kind of tell they're a little out of sync offensively. I think that's hurt them, but I do think by the end of November and once those guys are fully ramped up, they should perform at a higher level. But I think all the credit goes to High Point for now, for really getting Furman out of some of the things they wanted to do and then being able to just play free and create space. And the amount of open looks, I think, was alarming as well. So Furman's got a lot to correct defensively.
Lucky for us, we are joined by the guy right now for High Point, who is a large contributor in their big win against Furman. We're going to welcome in here senior High Point guard Rob Martin. Rob, what's going on, man? Big win last time against a great Furman team. Your first game with High Point, 22 on the night. What was working for you?
It really just going to my prep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Really just going to my prep in the summer. Coach just trusting in me and believing in me and just giving me the chance to just make plays out there and make mistakes. I feel like I got to my spots and my guys trusting me. And I know how they get to their spots and how well they score at a high level. So just taking the game slow. I know they had Furman had a freshman point guard, so just really watching film and just making the game slow down for me. I feel like that's the main thing. Being efficient, coming to High Point, I wanted to be more efficient. Wanted to win, and I feel like Flynn has helped me do that this summer and this first game against Furman.
Yeah, Rob, thanks for coming on. My question for you is, you guys have a very talented team, obviously, but you guys have a team that obviously hadn't played together very much. So how was that adjustment for you guys? How well do you feel like you guys know each other's tendencies? Because it looked pretty clear that you guys know each other quite well on the court. How hard was that adjustment for you guys?
I wouldn't say it's hard because it started in practice. We started early June. Just building that chemistry, like I said, knowing the guys where they want the ball at and where their good spots at. If it's Cam Fletcher on coming off a screen or Chase shooting a catch and shoot 3. So really just starting in practice. We brought it every day, and I feel like that would help us. Then we had those 2 exhibition games against UNC Wilmington. Then we played NCAS. So I feel like our chemistry came through those games and practice as well. So that really helped us to dominate Furman like we did.
Hey, Rob, thanks for joining the show. I remember at the end of last year in the OVC, you really took the league by storm, starting kind of, late January throughout February and into the conference tournament. How did that momentum and all the great games you had at SEMO, kind of carry over into the transfer portal? And then I guess the second part of the question is, at 5'10", I'm sure there was a bunch of schools that still didn't want to give you the call at the highest levels. And how did that help motivate you to either land at High Point and, for the rest of the season when you get to play those teams?
I mean, I feel like how it helped in the transfer portal is the way High Point played basketball. I feel like Flynn, like I said, trusting in me and just believing in me. Once Hus left and he got the job, he called me. He was like, I still want you here. I still want you to be the leader of this team. And I trusted his word, and he stood on his word. So that really just helped me. Then through the summer, I feel like just putting the work in. I feel like you put the work in, and the results would show. And that helped me. I had a couple high major schools call, but I don't want to face or go towards the highest schools that may want you because you may not play the role that you want to play, or it may not play minutes or something like that. So High Point was just a perfect fit for me. Then the other question was, say that again?
Yeah, I mean, confidence-wise, I mean, you completely scorched the OVC last year. Has that? Yeah. I mean, it looked like it carried over into the summer and into the first game of the season.
I mean, it's all glory to God, putting Him first, and just like I said, trusting in my work. You trust your work, and I feel like the results will show, like always. And then the coaches believing in me, Flynn, Coach Fletcher, Corey. And that's the main thing. Really, just work, reps. And when you get in the game, I've been in college for 4 years now, so. If it was different, probably my freshman year, but my senior year, I'm more comfortable. I got the confidence in myself. Like, I've been playing basketball since I was young. So now I just go out there and make the plays, and I believe in myself. I work hard. I worked hard to get to where I'm at now, and I feel like the hard work is paying off.
Yeah, so Rob, my next question for you is, you guys obviously had a lot of positives to take from this game, but is there anything that you thought you guys could work on heading into the next couple games?
I feel like defensive rebounding. I feel like Furman got a lot of offensive rebounds. They beat us on the glass a little bit, being more physical, not fouling as much. I feel like those are the two main things. If we get defensive rebounds and more offensive rebounds, it's going to be very hard to beat us. We didn't really have that many turnovers. We scored at a high level. So yeah, defensive rebounding and being more physical, I feel like, and not fouling as much.
Hey Rob, what was it like playing the late game on Monday after those teams played early in the day? Did you guys pay attention to those two games in the morning at all, or did you just stay locked in? Because I know Winthrop's in your league, so maybe you were curious about how they played.
We just stayed locked in on High Point. At the end of the day, once we play Winthrop, then we'll go over film with Winthrop. But we watch a lot of film of Furman and just execute against Furman. And I feel like that's what we did, and that's how we got the W. We dominated them. And now it's this next game mentality, as Coach says. And yeah.
How was the atmosphere for your game? Did you feel like it was a good event? Like obviously here at Field of 68, I felt like they did a good job. Like what was the experience like for you personally?
I feel like it was a great experience. I mean, at the end of the day, it's basketball. I don't care if it's 5 people in there or 500. So, I mean, it was a great atmosphere. We had some Furman people come out. Some High Point people came to support to make that hour drive. It felt great. I mean, at the end of the day, I was playing basketball. We all had fun. So it was definitely a great event, and I definitely want to come back. Hopefully, if I get another year. But yeah, it was a great event. I loved it.
Well,
you and Conrad Martinez. You and Conrad Martinez seem to be very in sync when you guys were on the court together. You had a great guard with you last year in Teddy Washington at SEMO. How important is that for you to have a guard that you just have a really good connection with?
Man, it's really important because they may see the defensive assignments that you may miss, and just helping me. I feel like Conrad has helped me over this summer, just learning from him and how he see the game and how the game is slowed down for him and him making the right reads. It's great to have that 1-2 connection. Because we having an off night or we both could bring it up. So if one person having an off night, I feel like the other person could pick them up, and it's great to have that punch, man. It started in practice. Like we go at each other each and every day, being on different teams, and we make each other better. Just like with me and Teddy Washington. So that has helped over the last few years playing with a good guard.
Rob, I hear you're a professional studies major. I think defensive coordinators that you're going to be facing here in the next couple months are going to have to be professionally studying your offense to try and get a stop. We appreciate you joining the show. Congrats on the win, and best of luck going forward.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. Have a good one.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you, Rob.
Bye.
We're going to head to break now. We'll be back with more Week 1 mid-major action, breaking it all down. From East Coast to West Coast, we'll be right back.
We all know the Players Era Festival has become the best field in all of college basketball. And you have the opportunity to win a VIP trip to the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas, thanks to our partners over at BetMGM. Here's how it works. Opt into the contest and start placing bets on any sport of at least $10 with plus 100 odds or greater. When you do that, you earn leaderboard points based on the bet's odds and the amount that you wager. The more you bet, the higher the odds, the more points that you earn. The top players in that contest are going to win a prize package that includes tickets to the games, withdrawable funds for travel, a 4-night stay at the luxurious Mandalay Bay here in Las Vegas, and more. For the full list of prizes, look in the description below. Make the tournament legendary with BetMGM. Vegas is calling. You gonna answer?
Are you trying to follow everything happening in college basketball? It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for recruiting news, game analysis, portal updates, and much, much more. For just $50 a year, you get access to the same information that your favorite coaching staff is subscribed to. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help. Make sure you subscribe today.
If you're not a member of the Field of 68's On3 community, make sure to go check us out. Get access to all of Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster's written content, including coaching carousel breakdowns, info on who is and isn't entering the transfer portal, insider recruiting information from none other than Joe Tipton, X's and O's analysis of all the teams in college basketball, and access to our message board community. A 7-day trial costs you $1. The Field of 68 On3. Get the scoop.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 Mid-Major Show. Guys, the first week of college basketball is upon us. We just broke down the opening marathon that the Field of 68 put on, 6 mid-major games, nonstop action. But let's take a look now at some other games across the slate of the first week here. And we can start with Washington State. Gets upset by Idaho. The Vandals controlled the majority of this game. Rocco, we'll start with you on this one. Break this one down for me, because we love when it's upset season. And when teams can get them in that first game, it's the best thing you can ask for.
Yeah, and I think, as somebody originally from the Northwest, I have to properly set the stage for how important this is regionally. I don't think most of the country understands that both the University of Idaho and Washington State University are separated by less than 6 miles because they're both on the state borderline. So that's why they play each other, and they try to play basketball every year. They play football against each other most years, and so this is a huge, huge deal for Alex Pribble and the Vandal program to go into the Palouse on opening night and hang on for an 83-81 victory. And I think that's first and foremost. I think one of the other big stories of the game was, Idaho is led by a very excellent guard, Colton Mitchell, and Wazoo did an amazing job kind of neutralizing him. He only ended up with 7 points, shot 1 for 7. And if you would have told David Riley that before the game, the Washington State head coach, he would have taken it and run. But what Idaho was able to showcase was 6 other players who all finished in double figures, of course, led by Christian Gonzalez's 18 off the bench, which just was a barrage of 3-pointers, and made all 3 of his free throws, hit some shots inside the arc as well. And I think this Idaho team and the Idaho program is finally at a level where they're ready to compete for a Big Sky championship, which is extremely exciting for them. And I think the investment was made 3 or 4 years ago. They have an unbelievable brand new arena that opened, I think, 2 seasons ago. I still have to get up there for a game. I might have to definitely just book that right after the show today so I don't miss out. But this is an exciting time for Idaho basketball. It really is. And we talked about it a lot in the preseason, how wide open the Big Sky is. This is a really good roster where, you see a Brody Roberry who's 6'11", 255, and throwing his weight around as the biggest guy against a WCC team in Washington State. And then you have, really positional freakish guys like Jackson Rasmussen, 6'7", 200. And, Colton Mitchell, again, he's going to have great, great nights. He should be their best player this year. But it's really refreshing to see the Vandals win a big-time game like this. And Mitchell was basically like the last option, and he was totally okay with that. And that's a sign to me that it's a team that lets the game come to them, and they just take what the defense gives them, because at the end of the game, you look at the stat sheet, they shoot 40% from 3, 60% from 2, and they get to the line enough times to put the game away. Super big time win. And it's something that Idaho fans will not let Washington State stop hearing about for the next year.
Yeah, they break that 6-game losing skid over the win over Washington State. And Sean, I want to go to you on this one. Surprises with Washington State. They had 3 guys score 17 points. They scored 81 on the day, but when you allow 83, it's hard to end up in that W spot.
Yeah, I mean, Washington State, they lost a lot of pieces from last season, so it's not a huge surprise that they're having a bit of a downswing this season. Last year, they made it to, I believe, the college basketball crown, and they had a lot of veterans on that team with Ethan Price and Dane Erickstrup and Lawan Watts, who transferred to Texas Tech. But this is a team that lost a lot of pieces. It could be an up and down season for them. Obviously, we're not going to be able to talk about them a ton on this show since they're not a one-bid league team. But they did have some impressive performances. I'm not going to completely gloss over that. Ace Glass, a freshman guard, he was really good. 17 points, 6 rebounds for him. And they were still in this game. I mean, they had a chance late in that game to tie or win the game. Ultimately, they came up short, but they were down by 16 points late in the second half with 5 minutes left, and they were able to make a real push. They weren't able to get it done, but this is a team that's going to fight. I think David Riley is a really good coach. We saw it during his time at Eastern Washington. He's going to get it on track this year. It just might take some time, but they're probably not a team I'd want to face later in the season. Plus, they went 6 for 28 from 3, and they only lost by 2 points. If you're Washington State, you have to look at that with some positivity because that's probably one of the worst shooting nights they're going to have all season.
Rocco, I want to go back to you on Idaho because you look at the grand scheme of the Big Sky Conference. A big win to open it up, obviously, but a lot of things unknown. Where do you think Idaho will make its working best in the Big Sky Conference?
Well, it's honestly the hardest conference to comment on because there's reason for hope at basically every school. And then there's reason to be concerned at every school, and that's just really rare from top to bottom. Northern Arizona, for example, was picked last by one of the media polls, and that is my actual Big Sky champion. And I think in the Field of 68
Really?
opener, I felt good about it, right? Like, because they did lose Towton, McLaughlin, and obviously on paper and statistically, those are huge losses. But I do think the group they have right now and just being able to spend time with Shane Burkar, I don't think anybody loves Shane Burkar as much as me and Rob Doster in the world, because Doster gave him a lot of love on the broadcast as well. But I do think, that's a very, very interesting team because they did play extremely efficient against Drake. They had just the 6 turnovers. And Idaho, like I said just a minute ago, the way that they let the game come to them against Washington State, they built a double-digit lead. The only reason it ended up being a 2-point win at the end, it was a feverish Cougar rally at the end. The Cougars went on a 28-18 finish to only lose by 2. But Idaho, I think, stayed really solid. And Alex Pribble has been building this thing up. He's a very confident coach, and players like playing in his system. And then, throughout the league, you have like Northern Colorado, where Coach Smiley, brought up Dalton Connect and St. Thomas and just these incredible individual talents. He's basically kind of due an NCAA bid himself. Montana is probably the safest pick. And then Montana State's got great coaches, and Sacramento State has Shaquille O'Neal. And Eastern Washington just played 2 really good games in LA and sadly came out of there 0-2. But they really were dangerous with UCLA, and they were beating Loyola Marymount for a long time last night. So I just think, for me, sorry, I turned that into a Big Sky answer because I just think the league's got so many things going on. And I know Sean loves Portland State.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Portland State. They really competed in that game against Stanford. Jalen Henderson was good, which you should come to expect from him. But it's going to be an interesting league from top to bottom. Maybe we'll talk about one team in the Big Sky later on here, but you'll have to wait to see that for another segment.
Yeah, I say we take it up to the Bronx here because there was another upset that happened with NJIT against Fordham. That game ends 72-61 in favor of NJIT, the first opening win they've had since 2018-2019 season. Rocco, break this one down for me. We're stacking upsets here, and they're only getting more interesting by the matchup.
Yeah, this is one I missed part of it, but I think one of the big stories coming out was a freshman named Rocco Awad, who ended up playing 30 minutes off the bench and made 4 threes. So very exciting to have not only a Rocco in college basketball, but also be part of a big time upset for, let's be honest, like NJIT is probably the hardest job in the America East. The America East is probably the 27th or 28th out of 31 conferences in strength. So this is a really, really tough place to win. I think that puts it into context. You might have Fordham near the bottom of the A10 going into the year. But I think those of us that know Mike Bigpile well from all the outstanding work he did at UC Riverside, I think there was just a general expectation that Fordham will be fine for a lot of these preseason tune-ups. But NJIT really kind of turned the corner. They were led by even a more valuable freshman, played nearly the whole game, and David Bolden scored 18 points, made 4 threes of himself, and he also went down there and got 7 boards to go along with 3 steals and 3 dimes. I mean, Bolden really did a lot. And I think that's the thing that Grant Billmeyer has figured out. I think it's his 3rd year there now, is you can win or you can at least compete with really, really good freshmen and sophomore. And if you look at every single player that played for NJIT in opening night, it was only freshman and sophomore. So a lot of these guys are just kind of getting bypassed in due to the transfer portal, or just due to having a chance to play early. You can go to a place like NJIT now and really succeed. We saw just in the last 2 years how incredible was Tariq Francis. They had a huge upset over Vermont in his freshman year. And of course, he's now starting for Rutgers. So this is a really creative way to build the roster for a team that's obviously strapped in resources. And again, these guys come out with nothing to lose, shoot the ball really well. They were the more confident team, and Fordham just couldn't snap out of it after kind of a big run down the stretch before halftime, where NJIT went on a 24-10 stretch going into the half to take a 11-point lead, and then the second half was just really difficult for the Rams to get out of the mud.
Plenty more upset storylines in opening week of college basketball. Sean, we're about to get to our guests here in just a couple of minutes, so let's talk about their game before we get there. New Orleans, they go down to Fort Worth and play a tough TCU team close. 78-74 the final. Their first win over a Power 4 opponent since 2016. I was a 7th grader at that time, so it's been a while since that happened. Break this one down for me. How did New Orleans do it?
I mean, for me, the first thing you look at is just how much this game was really dominated by the Privateers. I know it was a 4-point final, but when you look deeper at this game, this was a 21-point lead with 7:24 left in the second half for New Orleans. They turned the ball over a little bit, 19 total turnovers, and that led to a run from TCU late in the game. They had a chance to tie it late, and they missed a 3 after a turnover. But you look at those guards for New Orleans. Colton Benson, who's been around a little bit, started his career at Army, and then he went to Texas State. He had 22 points, made a couple big threes in this one. Jacavian Buckley, another transfer from in the conference in the Southland, had 9 assists, 13 points, 10 turnovers, but he was really solid with passing in the half court, just lost the ball a few too many times. But what really stood out to me was their big men. Churchill Abbas, who has been at multiple high major programs at this point, only played 9 minutes, but he had 6 points and 7 rebounds, really productive 9 minutes. And MJ Thomas, a player that I paid a lot of attention to last year. I thought he was really productive as a freshman. He had 10 points, he had 7 rebounds. He is going to be a staple for this New Orleans program moving forward here. And you look at what they did last year. I mean, this was a team in Coach Hollowell's first season that won 4 games. They were 341st in KenPom. They were one of the worst defensive teams in college basketball. They ended the year basically losing for 2 straight months. They won just 2 games in one of the worst rated conferences in college basketball with the Southland. So for them to start the year with a win on the road against a Big 12 opponent is really a program win for New Orleans. And I think it's something that Coach Hollowell and his program will use as a springboard moving forward.
Rocco, 21.5-point underdogs were the Privateers coming into this game. I don't know that many people expected this one, but the Privateers made it happen.
Yeah, they did. I mean, it was unbelievable in a lot of ways, just based on the fact that, first of all, New Orleans went 4-27 last year and only won 2 games in conference down the stretch and really, really struggled. But I think you go under the hood and it's starting to really make sense. They do have 3 extremely solid players. Colton Benson was the hero with 22 points. Took a ton of shots, but he got to 22 and he also picked up 6 rebounds and was a catalyst, down the stretch to help ice the game. Jacavian Buckley is a first-team All-Southland transfer from SELA. And so that's a big-time score for the New Orleans basketball program right there from in their own state, down the road in Hammond, comes over to UNO. And that is, you have to trickle that back to Master P, the new president of basketball operations since February, who, of course, is very invested in basketball for decades and loves the city of New Orleans. That's kind of the coolest story here, is the resources they now have access to gets them a player like Buckley. And he had an extreme stat line, turning the ball over 10 times, but also having 9 assists. So not quite the 1-to-1 assist to turnover. But Buckley's going to be a great player throughout the year. He's got a track record. He tore it up in the heavily marketed exhibition against Shaquille O'Neal's Sacramento State Hornets and Mike Bibby's Sacramento State Hornets. And, he's in for a big season. And then MJ Thomas was an all-freshman team guy also last year. And now he comes back, and they did so much to retool the roster with the new resources that MJ Thomas is not even a starter on opening night. But he did play a great game. He had 10 points, 5 for 5 on all of his shots, 7 rebounds. And despite fouling out, he played a key role. So I like those 3 players individually. Now it's Stacey Hollowell's job to get them playing cohesively. And so, let's welcome them in.
Yeah, let's welcome in our 2 guests from New Orleans. Let's welcome in head coach Stacey Howell and the man himself, Master P. Guys, there's no place in college basketball I would have rather been than in your locker room after this game. Smiles on faces, water going everywhere. Master P, we'll start with you. Coach P, Master P, how much fun was that locker room environment after this win?
I mean, it was like a celebration because we've been the underdog for so long. And, Coach, we put so much work in. And to be able to beat a Power 5 team and the Big 12 conference, which is TCU, it was like David and Goliath. So we had to celebrate, even though the work is not done, the job is not finished. We still got a lot more to go. But we just had to turn up one time for Coach and the team. Because think about it, y'all. We was just the straight underdogs, and we're going to be that all year. So it ain't like we're going to win every game, but we're trying to get prepared for the conference. And we know that if we do the right thing and work hard, we're going to get there.
Yeah, Coach P, Rocco Miller here. Thanks for coming on. Thanks, Stacey, for making it all possible. Congrats on the win. I saw you with the slingshot celebration, and I think that's because you had the David versus Goliath. We're going to beat him with the slingshot. Is that okay?
I mean, I had that slingshot all week, and when I came to TCU with that slingshot, people was looking at me like, what is that about? And then they really, after the game and we won, they said, oh, David and Goliath. And that's what it was. We needed a slingshot to win that game.
So now that you've got everybody's attention right out of the gate, couldn't have scripted it better for what you're trying to do for the city of New Orleans, for the University of New Orleans. What do you want the nation to hear as we go forward into the rest of such a long journey?
We just want to build our brand and let people know New Orleans is what we represent, and it's bigger than basketball. It's about helping to enroll more students into our school, get more students to understand the importance of education, and just taking the basketball players that we have on this journey and say, you know what, let's put the effort in, let's win, and let's show the world that we're going to represent the city of New Orleans, and it's a new winning culture. And we still got a lot of work to go, but it's a real brotherhood with this organization.
That's terrific. Coach Hollowell, for you, you've got a lot more pieces this year to work with. I think I heard you talk about during preseason, MJ Thomas would have been one of your biggest players last year. Now you've got 7 or 8 guys bigger than him. What's it like to have these tools to work with and be able to finally kind of play the way you want to play?
Well, it's a blessing. You know, we've got guys that you've got to guard at every position now, and we've got depth at every position. And so that's been really helpful. He was our big man last year, and he did a great job. He's done a great job for us this year. He actually reminds me a lot of a guy that was on my national championship team in the way he plays and moves in transition. And so he is coming off the bench, but he's playing starter minutes, and he's done really well for us.
Coach Hollowell, my first question is for you. A big takeaway I had from this game was the resiliency from you guys, that you were able to kind of give up the lead a little bit. I mean, TCU had a chance to tie it there, but you guys were able to hold on late. What did that tell you about your team?
Just their will is strong. You know, we've given these guys a lot in a short amount of time. They've picked everything up that we've asked them to pick up. And I told them before the game, I said, this game has an aura about it. Like, I feel like you've put the work in. You're in position to go out there and compete. And, you know, we built a solid lead with execution on both sides of the ball. And, you know, it's a gritty group. It's a group that in a lot of ways you could say have been overlooked or underdogs, and they play with that little chip on their shoulder, and we were able to pull it out.
Yeah, I also have one for Coach P and Masterpiece. So that you've had a long story time in basketball, a lot of the different things you've done in your life with and outside of basketball. Where does this moment rank for you in your basketball world, you guys beating TCU?
I mean, real high, because being able to coach and be the president of basketball operation on the Division I basketball program and have a great head coach like we have, like I'm learning a lot, I'm growing, but this is definitely a moment for me that's preparing me for the future. So this is definitely at the top tier of my moments in basketball, with me going to the NBA, playing college basketball. But this is a different level, because being a coach is like taking care of the kids that's on our program that really want more. I mean, like Coach said, our kids are hungry, and this pushed me to be who I need to be for these kids on our team and our program. So I just love the resilience that we have, because nobody's expecting us to win, especially not beat a Big 12 team. That's probably one of the best basketball programs in college, basketball. So, I mean, we on an all-time high, but like I say, the job is not done, and we got a lot to go, and we humble and hungry. So this is just gonna motivate us even more so, and we just gonna keep learning every day and getting better and better. So I feel good. I feel good about our program, and I feel good about them thinking we underdogs, because I mean, look, the lights just went off, y'all, but we're gonna turn them back on. They don't want to see us win, so they gonna cut the lights off on us.
There we go.
They hating on
We're
us,
back.
y'all, but that's all right. We back, and that's how this program is, right? Because we walked in there, coach. We walked in there. They was like, they just gonna blow us out. And it's just the game that we come in to get defeated. And that's why the David and Goliath thing is so important, because we know we had no chance. The world looked at us that we had no chance. But I want people to know, when you put your trust in faith and God and you get out there and you work hard, it's going to come back. So the blessing's going to keep coming, and we're just going to keep getting better. And we know we got the toughest schedule in college basketball, right? And they probably saying that was a fluke. These guys don't have a chance, but we're not worrying about that. We really worrying about getting better for conference, and that's the whole thing that we're doing. We're preparing for conference. Like, we're not gonna be lit down if these games don't go the way it should or we want them to go. We're just gonna keep getting better. So for us, it's all about conference and being there in March. Some way, keep praying to be there in March.
I got one more question
Coach P,
before you both. Oh, you go ahead, Rock.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Coach P, I think that's so inspiring. And I just want to reset for the national audience your story a little bit more, because you got introduced as the president of operations back in late February, as last season was concluding. Since that time, the facilities that you've upgraded with the locker rooms and various elements to make these players want to transfer in and feel like they can succeed, whether it's a health nutrition standpoint, rest recovery standpoint, just being comfortable there. You've had a huge hand in doing that. And then from Stacy's point of view, I don't think the nation knows enough about you. He's the 2022 national champion NAIA coach for Loyola of New Orleans. He is well respected across that whole region. I talked to a lot of the JUCO level coaches, the lower division college coaches. And so I just think this has got the potential to be one of the great stories we've seen in a while. So we appreciate you coming on. Stacy, my last question for you, I'll give it back to Vince, is, TCU couldn't buy a basket from downtown. I think their numbers were 3 for 27, or maybe even further than that. Obviously, you're but much bigger players to distract them from making shots like that and taking them out of rhythm. But was there any schematic things that you want to share that kind of went into that game plan to take them off balance?
I mean, there were three things for us, really. Transition defense, getting back. We knew their pace was going to be high. Ball screen coverage. We really tried to take away certain things in the ball screen coverage, and they got 5 opportunities and converted 3 of them. So that was, to me, the biggest piece was our ball screen coverage. And then we rebounded them, out rebounded them plus 10. And to me, those are the things that it takes to be great. You execute under duress, which we did for 33 minutes. And we just kind of figured it out there at the end.
Last question before we let you go here. And this is for both Coach Hollowell and Master P. Master P, we'll start with you. If you had to assign one of your songs to be the anthem for this team, what song are you picking?
Well, you know what I'm gonna do? Make them say because we need all the energy that we could get. And I mean, like I told you guys, this is a journey. I'm just proud of our guys, and we have a real brotherhood over here, and we're gonna share this with the world. And we just gonna go into these arenas like David and Goliath every time. And I mean, we gonna turn up when we need to because we need that energy, coach. And we humble, like I said, we going in there humble. So we not looking for nothing. We just looking for our guys to give the right amount of effort and play defense, and the offense is gonna come to us. So we gonna make them say all the way.
Coach Stacy, what about you? What anthem are you choosing before we had to break?
I was sure he was going to say about it, but it's okay. We'll go with it.
We're a different breed, man. There's no more traditional basketball. We taking over. All these other colleges are going to have to get like us, man. And imagine what we're doing, but this is bigger than me and Coach. This is for the kids. It's for the next generation. And this is for the city of New Orleans. So, man, we are blessed and highly favored, and we're ready to get out there and let the guys see, let the world see the hard work that our guys has been doing, all along. So we excited, man, and we ready. We ready. The world gonna know New Orleans basketball.
We appreciate you guys for jumping on and letting the world know. We appreciate you guys so very much. And congratulations on the win and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Before we head to break, we're going to take a look at we are going to head to break here, and then we're going to take a look at our call our shot picks again like we did last week. We weren't very close last week. Hopefully this week we have a better shot. So we'll have more with that when we come back.
As you know by now, we have teamed up with BetMGM again this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we will have special offers for Field of 68 fans, including same-game parlays, best-in-class live betting, and daily odds boost. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app, you sign up using bonus code FIELD, you deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. Make this college basketball season one for the history books. Make it legendary. And don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code FIELD and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. If you're not a member of the Field of 68's On3 community, make sure to go check us out. Get access to all of Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster's written content, including coaching carousel breakdowns, info on who is and isn't entering the transfer portal, insider recruiting information from none other than Joe Tipton, X's and O's analysis of all the teams in college basketball, and access to our message board community. A 7-day trial costs you $1. The Field of 68 on 3. Get the scoop.
Are you trying to follow everything happening in college basketball? It can be overwhelming. That's where the Field of 68 Daily comes into play. The Daily is your go-to source for recruiting news, game analysis, portal updates, and much, much more. For just $50 a year, you get access to the same information that your favorite coaching staff is subscribed to. Quality content can be hard to find in the college basketball space. The Daily is here to help. Make sure you subscribe today.
Welcome back to the Mid-Major Show here on the Field of 68. What a great segment that was with Coach Hollowell and Master P. great things going on there in New Orleans with that program, and a lot of great things going around in week one across the country. Let's take a look just quick at the MAC Sun Belt Challenge, a challenge we spoke about last week. We previewed it a little bit. You guys both picked one game you want to talk about from this challenge. Rocco, we'll start with you, man. South Alabama, they took on Toledo in a super close one, and South Alabama emerged victorious 76-74. How'd they do it?
Yeah, well, they got off to a great start. I mean, they took it right to Toledo out of the gate, which is important to do, especially playing on the road. And at half, they were up 13, and then they really had to hold on down the stretch. Toledo charged extremely hard, getting 5 threes from Leroy Blyden, and then also 4 threes from Kyle Vanderjack, the Central Michigan transfer. But South Alabama set the tone early and often with a lot of great play through Chase Harris, their 3-man. He had 7 assists. You don't see that very often from a 3. And, he scored 10 himself. So basically neutralized a lot of the different defenses Toledo was experimenting with. And I think, Adam Olson's a guy that really kind of emerged and had the best game. He also made 5 threes on the Jag side. And I think, South Alabama's just a team I've been hearing about throughout the summer. They really, really like their group. You could argue that Peyton Law was the MVP of the game. And that's what Ken Pomeroy would tell you. Making 90% of his twos and 90% of his shots at 9 for 10 and going for 18 points, but also not turning the ball over a single time, blocking a shot, getting 3 assists, 6 rebounds. And so there's a lot of weapons throughout the South Alabama roster. Obviously, Coach Riley's going to throw all sorts of different junk zones at you. And the sooner they can adopt to that, the more they'll be able to shut down opposition. I think they did that great in the first half. And of course, Toledo adjusted in the second half. But they have, 3 seniors with Harris Law and Randy Brady. The problem for them is they're just not very big. Really nobody above 6'8". So I'll be curious to see how many different combinations they can throw at people to line up defensively. But the Jags have the talent to score, and I think they have their roles identified, which a lot of schools at this level don't have this early in the season.
Sean, Rocco talked about some of the high-scoring numbers that South Alabama put up. If you wanted a high-scoring affair, you should have been tuned into Troy versus Kent State. What was that, 103-97 finish? A lot of points in this one, but Troy emerges victorious at the end. What impressed you about Troy, and how did they get this win?
Well, first, the wild part is at their core, Scott Cross and Rob Senderoff are both defensive-first coaches. So the fact that we saw 1.20 points per possession for Troy and 1.13 points per possession for Kent State was kind of the biggest surprise of the MAC Sun Belt Challenge. But for Troy, I mean, we're talking about a team that made the NCAA tournament last year, but they lost a number of pieces, including Tayton Connerway, who's now the starting point guard at Indiana. And they have Cooper Campbell, who was a bench player last year. He came in, started at point guard, 19 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, 1 turnover, 3 steals, and this game doesn't even go to overtime if Cooper Campbell doesn't go coast to coast for a game-tying layup in the final seconds to send it to overtime. He was great. Theo Sang had 24 points. Thomas Dowd 19 and 13. Victor Valdez had 23 points out of that 4-man spot with 6 assists. So this Troy team has a lot of different pieces. They were a lot better offensively than I expected them to be right away, and a big reason why was both of the Campbell brothers, both Cooper and Kobe Campbell. And I was impressed by a lot of things Kent State did too. I mean, they got down 16 points in the first half of this game. They really had to battle back. They were very resilient. They had 22 offensive rebounds, which is going to be a staple of what this team can do. Though Rico Gillespie, Rob Whaley both had 20-plus points. That duo is going to be very important. They're going to give a lot of teams trouble in the MAC because that's a great 1-2 punch on that interior for Kent State. Both teams are in a really good spot. Both teams could be in the NCAA tournament this season.
We're getting close to the end here, so you know what time it is. I'm going to call my shot. You're going to call your shot. We're going to pick one mid-major upset over a high major in the week to come, right? So I'm going to start here, and I loved what I saw from the Murray State Racers. There's a new, fresh energy to that program that head coach Ryan Miller's bringing. They've got a tough cast of characters in Jackson, Miller, Trainer, a bunch of studs. The Racers, they travel to SMU on Tuesday, November 11th, a game in Dallas. I'm going with the Racers.
I like it.
I like it,
That's
Vince.
good.
I think.
Talk to me, Rocco. Who's your call your shot?
I think the Racers are dangerous. They're going to be live against anybody, especially if they're connecting. They have high major talent, so they can match up with SMU. I think I'm going to go with something a little bit more extreme, but that's why we do this, right? Like, let's have some fun with it. I feel like I went a little too soft last week with the Asheville call, and then they didn't play well at Wichita. So sorry, Asheville. But we're going to move on to probably a team that's going to actually take the court in 30 minutes. Now, I'm going to pick their next game after this, but it's the IU Indy Jaguars, and they are going to Butler this weekend. And I think if you look at Butler, first of all, there's only really two teams in the Big East that played fast last year, and I think obviously much, much higher caliber of athletes in the Big East than the Horizon League. But Butler went 0-5 in those games against both Xavier and St. John's. And, we'll see if they can keep up with the crazy, frenetic West Liberty style Ben Howlett offense, which, IU Indy comes out on opening night and scores 102 at Ohio State in a regulation game. Now, of course, they gave up 118 and they were down by double digits pretty much the whole way. So they got to figure out how to stay close in these bigger opportunities. But, Butler's talent compared to Ohio State's talent is a much different story. And Butler did play pretty well in their first game. I just think this IU Indy system is really hard to prepare for. And they're so well conditioned. And they're just not going to stop no matter what the score is. It's not like they're going to be up by 8 with 4 minutes to go and they're going to milk the clock. They're going to just keep humming. And I just think, if you're a team like Butler is trying to retool with some transfer portal guys, keep in mind, 3 or 4 of these players came with Howlett from West Liberty, and they know the system inside and out. And I just think it's going to be extremely dangerous. And by the way, while we're talking about them, they play LIU, the NEC favorites, and just an unbelievable, far deep under the radar contest right here in 30 minutes. So please pay attention to that tonight too. This could be one of the great stories throughout the year as well.
Sean Paul, call your shot, my man.
Yeah, we're going with Montana over Stanford. I think this game's going to be really interesting, and I think one thing teams need to be able to pull off a big upset is a great guard, and Montana has a great guard in Money Williams. He's going to have a big game in this one. Tajon Sawyer is also a really reliable big man for them, but part of what this comes down to is I think Montana is pretty good. They're starting 3 freshmen, but they also have a couple veteran transfers off the bench like Grant Kepley from the D2 level and Brooklyn Hicks from UNLV, but Stanford is probably from a top to bottom standpoint, probably one of the least talented high major teams. Abuka Okore had a really good game against Portland State, 26 points for the freshman guard over there. But this is a Stanford team that could be gettable. I mean, even last year they had Maxime Reynaud, they had Osiah Sellers, and they still lost to Cal Poly. They also had a couple other close calls against mid-major teams in there. So I think a team like Montana, who has a really good guard with a really good coach, could give Stanford some trouble on the road. I'm going to go with Montana winning this one.
The shots have been called and the buzzer sounds. We are out of time on this episode of the Field of 68 Mid-Major Show. Now, all you have to do is prove our picks right and have our picks go win the basketball games, right? That'll make us look good. We'll be back next Thursday to talk all things mid-major hoop. This is your home for it. This is the place to be all season long. Alongside Rocco Miller and Sean Paul, my name is Vince Wolfram, and this has been the Field of 68.